In oil and gas industry, we usually do in the oil and gas industry, we usually do what we call the seismic survey before we start um, drilling. Okay, the process of bringing drilling is the process of bringing the oil from the earth crust to the which is the reservoir to where it has been found to the surface. Okay, it could be done offshore or it could be done onshore. When it's offshore, we're talking about in the ocean or from the ocean bodies or water bodies. So when it's onshore, we're talking about on land. Okay. Now, how does this work? You see, from the second survey, what we have is from the second survey, we have sound waves that are sent, like shock waves that are sent to the earth. I'm trying to make it broader so you can see. Then, as this sound is sent, then they then send back um, signals which are collected and with some certain devices. So these shock waves that are fired to them, they bounce back. They are revealing some structural dome. It shows the nature of those sound waves will now show the nature of the earth crust, the structural dome, the way it can some of us that did geography in our O level understand this better when we talk about the different layers of strata that you have along the crust of the earth. Okay. Remember we said that in our last class that this all moved to some particular space where they occupy, and these places are called eventually as a reservoir. Okay. So from this signal sent back, we're able to tell the better position for us to drill. Now we try to drill direct to the source of the to the reservoir, okay, to the oil reserve, where the oil reserve is. That's where we try to drill directly to. But there are some cases where that is not be not possible, maybe because of topography or some other condition, and we don't have a direct drilling. Have um, that as a different case when it comes to drilling. We talk about that. So you see, from this zone, the direction is for us to drill here. Okay. Now, another thing, once an oil has once oil or gas process has been identified, then the whole is drilled as I've said, and this things could cost a lot of money, a lot. Yeah. This one is even an old rate of $10,000 for each meter that is drilled. So you can imagine what the rate would be at the beginning, you know, gone beyond this rate already. Now, this is an example of an oil and gas of a platform that is used for the uh, petroleum industry or for drilling, an offshore platform. Okay, this is what it looks like. Now, here the drilling is going on, and there are pipes that are also helping convey this material to different locations. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now, the oil and gas, oil is usually dead based and water. So what happens between is that this oil that is covered to the surface, alright, and it will bring on top of the water. Okay, that's all it is. And it comes on through the during this drilling, we mount what called the wellhead. Okay, the wellhead, and there are some injection of some injection of things sometimes to prime to make this to enhance recovery of some of this oil and some those that's the process for drilling which will also be emphasized. And we played that video in the previous class. Alright, because of time, we might not be able to do that now. Alright. Now the drilling of the oil brings the oil to the surface, then the wellhead is mounted It's like this, we also call it the Christmas tree. And then we have all channeled some different valves that is on the well for the line that will transport it down to uh, um, refinery or uh, the processing point, depending on the system design. So usually it goes with a temporary storage and then to the refinery where it is broken into its several components. Now, the process of this is the refinery. So that's the next stage. All right. The next stage from the drilling after exploration is taken to the refinery. At the refinery, we have separation into various fractions. The separation of the crude oil into its various fractions. And two factors are responsible for this. One of the factors we use is the difference in boiling point of the various components that are in the crude oil. Alright? The difference in boiling point of the various components that are included in the crude oil. Another factor that we also make use of is their difference in molecular weight. Now, remember, uh, in, for those of you who do organic chemistry in your O level, who are using chemistry, I don't know. Now, remember that the crude oil itself has various fractions from the gas, from the gases, the light gases, which is methane, CH4, and then you have some other gases that is similarly to the LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, and the rest of it. Then from there you have gasoline. Let me make it sure. So all these components, you have the gasoline, the one used as petrol, premium motor spirit, you have the kerosene, you have the diesel oil, and you have the fuel oil, and the rest of them. Kerosene is also known as jet fuel or deep to one purpose kerosene. Alright? So this is an example of the distillation plant where we have the separation of crude oil into its various components. And at the very bottom, we have lubricating oil, the waxing, the paraffin, and the rest coming out at the base. Okay. Now, um, remember what I said? That two components and two factors responsible for that aid the separation are number one, the boiling point, and number two, the difference in their molecular weight. All right. You can see that the lighter ones are collected on top at the top, the heavier ones are collected at the bottom. Okay. Now, before it can be used, crude oil must be refined. We've already explained that, and hydrocarbon process is called distillation. All right. Now, we just the history of how a little history on exploration. All right. Um, we cannot talk about crude oil without remembering Abraham Gessner, the modern era of this position. Crude oil started in 1842, right, when we affected the art of paraffin distillation. That was the first uh, processing of crude oil. Because at that time, um, the paraffin was really in high demand and its components. So triggered, but this triggered massive worldwide boom oil production. Now, California was the center of this activity in the 90s, in the early 90s, which just like an overview of what happening in the oil industry. So, from the refinery, okay, let me take um, the induction. Now, from the refinery, we go straight to um, now. Okay, quickly from the refinery, what happens is that different products, these different products that we get from the refinery are eventually used for various um, components or various products rather. Okay, some are used for like our cooking gas, which is the LPG, and some are also used for some other things. We have to LPG, apart from the ones that we listed, some other products like your ATM card, your tires, some plastic, some utensils, then in our filling station, which is the downstream. Now you have dispensing, of course, So these are like the end product of what we have in from the use of our crude oil. A lot that comes up from there. All right. Okay. So quickly, I just want to also mention some of these aspects. Now, in the there are two streams in the oil and gas industry, which I talked about briefly in the last class. We have the upstream. The upstream, I just want to re-emphasize that. The upstream one, then we have uh, the downstream. All right. The upstream is for exploration, and the upstream is for exploration and production, which we have explained the process of exploration and production and all that. Then the downstream is the aspect that includes processing, the stores and markets and filling stations. These areas are regarded as the downstream. So the downstream sector includes the oil refineries and petrochemical plants and petroleum product distribution via retail outlets, and the natural gas distribution company within the operations. Okay. Now, all these are the classes or the sectors of the downstream industry. Okay. Now, when we're talking about offshore and onshore operations, also, they, okay, they need to also see this down. And this is the refinement process. I need to quickly mention this. When we're talking about the onshore and offshore production, of this operations, rather. Now, the onshore operation and the offshore operation are two categories of the kind of operations we see. Now, most of the upstream activities, in fact, the upstream activities, which is exploration and the rest of it, they are mostly on offshore. In fact, basically all on offshore. All right. There's something I'll be talking about in the next class when we're talking about OML. But I want you to, I'll be giving you that to go read ahead before we come to the next class. That's great. All right. So the onshore of operations, every other activity, most of the activities we have in the downstream happen in onshore operations. That's on the run. Okay. But there is a midstream also between the upstream and downstream. There's a midstream, and this is called the swamp operations. Okay. Yeah, the swamp operations, like the operations that happen in the creek and all that. There are some wellheads in those locations. They are not in the location. Like for those of you that might be around that come from the south, there are some creeks in Delta. There are some creeks in various, especially southern local government. We have a lot of wellheads around that area. Those areas are not offshore, but it's still what kind of water and land operation, because you will see some communities around those documents. So it is referred to as swamp operation. A lot of companies have their where they share AG, Chevron, and some other indigenous oil companies also have their operations there. All right, so again, this is what happens in the oil refinery process. This is just the um, process flow diagram of what happens in this refining process. You have your crude oil, natural gas liquids, and other uh, things that come in with the crude oil, brought it into the oil refinery and the distillation program. At the top, you have refinery gas. Then you have, as in the collection, you understand, you have liquefied petroleum gas, you have gasoline, naphtha, you have jet fuel, you have gas, oil, and diesel. Then you have residual for um, okay. Now the life cycle, please, the question, the life cycle of, I need to take this before around. Alright, the life cycle of a processing, the life cycle of processing of oil field consists of 5 stages. Everything in which I've talked about will fall under these 5 stages in the life cycle of processing of oil field. Okay? Alright. Um, Number one is exploration, which I've been listing. Then we have appraisal, we have development, we have production, and we have abandonment. Abandonment is the last two. I will explain most of it before the end of the class. Then you are also going to really discuss on it in detail. Okay? Alright. So the first thing we talk about, which I've emphasized, was exploration. We talked about exploration in at the beginning class, first class, you know. And we said it's the finding of what oil and gas fields. That's the main goal is to identify and deliver commercially viable fuel that you know. And now the following the what for G and G, geological and geophysical activities are what takes place in the exploration stage. So let's take this again to show what this I want to show you what some of them. You can use an acronym EADPA to remember that EADPA is exploration, appraisal, development, production, and bargaining. Very critical, it's very important that we get familiar with this processes. Now, under the exploration, we said that it's following stages. Number one is what to conduct what a seismic survey. I've explained that before. What a seismic survey is from area where we try to locate where there is likelihood of oil and gas reserves. You know. Then we process and interpret the seismic data and map the potential reservoir. So when the sound, when we get such location, we so by sending those sound waves and shockwaves, and there is a feedback. Now that feedback is interpreted by the seismic device, which is able to get data and map the potential reservoir. All right. Now, then we select the exploration well location such that we are able to drill directly to the source or to the reservoir, the oil that the direction that we'll be able to drill to give us easy access. Okay. Then core analysis to be established to establish porosity and permeability, logging data. This is the process of the activity that, or these are the activities that occur in the exploration stage. All right. The PVT, pressure, volume, and temperature for long observatory analysis. You know, take all those information. Let me take the picture of it. Just quickly show us that. Using, okay, what you saw here, this is what the seismic story looks like, or the data looks like. That's what the process looks like. All right. Then this is the goal. So we try to drill directly to where the result is. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Yeah. So quickly, right. So this is what happens in the exploration stage. Then after the exploration phase of the life cycle intertwines with the next stage, which is appraisal. All right. Now the appraisal, what we do there is also obtain the information about the reservoir. You know, that's to guide us to now make decision whether we can proceed with that development or not. Okay, so that's what happened. That video I'll show you just now. There's also a point where we have to uh, do, we have to kind of assess some planning and execution of the data acquisition program of additional testing. You know, it's not just one analysis to take, to do a lot of other approval. Then we also reprocess the existing seismic data, to obtain enhanced results on the grading of the appraisal work. Okay, then we also have to evaluate the results from the seismic data and the appraisal drilling activity. So this all covers the appraisal stage up to where we now conduct an initial conceptual field development, development planning, and what for EIA, that's our environmental impact assessment. Mm, That environmental impact assessment has to help us understand what will be the environmental impact, what will be the impact of the oil field or the oil well in that environment. What are the things, what are the controls that can be put in place so we don't have a permanent destruction of such environment, and we're able to also ensure that the operation is conducted uh, successfully. Alright? Other stages are the development stage, the production stage, and the environment. Then, alright. So we have in the development stage, this is what here. Please ensure that you are able to carry out or you do your assignments and submit to this email with this. So ODM three assignment 2, then your center and state. The deadline for submission is Friday. And then please don't copy anybody. Neither should you use directly from internet. No, use it in your own house. Then there will be penalties for anyone that is either copying or lifting. You know what I mean by lifting? You don't be copy and paste from internet. No, that's not going to be allowed. So please ensure you outline the development and outline the